At 3:47 a.m., Elena Martinez sits in a rain-soaked safe house, staring at a television screen that's destroying her entire world. The man she abandoned everything for, Adrien Moretti, the most dangerous crime boss in the city, stands at an altar in a $1,000 suit, sliding a ring onto another woman's finger. 6 months ago, he promised her freedom. He promised her forever. He promised he would choose her over his empire. She left her life, her career, her identity behind to wait for him. Now she understands the truth. She was never his choice. She was always his secret, his lie, his biggest mistake. If you want to see how Elena rises from this betrayal, stick around until the end. And don't forget to hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. Elena Martinez pressed her forehead against the cold window of the safe house, watching water streak down the glass in patterns that looked like tears. Her reflection stared back, hollow eyes, tangled dark hair, a face she barely recognized anymore. The bruise on her left cheekbone had faded to a sickly yellow-green, a souvenir from a week ago when everything started falling apart. Her phone sat on the table behind her, screen dark, silent. It had been silent for 48 hours. "He's coming," she whispered to herself, the words tasting like desperation. He promised. But promises, Elena was learning, meant different things to different people. To her, a promise was sacred, a contract written in trust and hope. To Adrien Moretti, promises were probably just another tool in his arsenal, something to deploy when convenient and abandon when necessary. She turned away from the window, hugging herself against the chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. The safe house was barely furnished, a couch with springs poking through worn fabric, a table with uneven legs, a kitchenette that smelled like rust and old cigarettes. Adrien had arranged it 3 months ago, back when their secret relationship still felt romantic instead of suffocating. "Just in case," he'd said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with surprising gentleness for a man who'd allegedly killed 17 people. "If things ever get complicated, you come here. You wait for me. I'll always find you." Elena walked to the table and picked up her phone, checking for the 100th time. No missed calls, no texts, no word from the man who'd turned her entire existence upside down and promised to put it back together in a better configuration. The television in this corner flickered with late-night programming, infomercials, and old movies. She'd turned it on for noise, for company, for any sound that wasn't the rain or her own anxious breathing. Now she grabbed the remote, about to switch it off, when the local news interrupted with a breaking story. "We're coming to you live from Street, Catherine's Cathedral, where business mogul Adrien Moretti is marrying socialite Victoria Castellano in what's being called the wedding of the decade." The remote slipped from Elena's fingers and hit the floor. On the screen, St. Catherine's Cathedral blazed with lights despite the rain. Limousines lined the street, photographers crowded the barriers. And there, stepping out of a black car in a dove-gray gown that probably cost more than Elena made in a year, was a woman with perfect blonde hair and a smile that belonged on magazine covers. Victoria Castellano. Old money, political connections, everything Adrien's world valued, everything Elena wasn't. "No," Elena breathed, moving closer to the television. "No, this is wrong. This is some kind of mistake." But the camera didn't lie. It panned across the cathedral entrance, caught glimpses of guests in designer clothes, and then, there he was. Adrien Moretti stood at the altar in a charcoal suit that fit him like it was painted on, his dark hair perfectly styled, his expression unreadable. The same man who'd held Elena 3 nights ago and sworn he was leaving his empire, his obligations, his entire blood-soaked legacy behind. The same man who'd traced her scars and kissed her wrists and promised her a small house by the ocean where nobody would know their names. "We're just waiting for the ceremony to begin," the reporter narrated. "Sources say this union represents a significant alliance between the Moretti and Castellano families." Elena's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, unable to tear her eyes away as the ceremony began. As Adrien took Victoria's hands, as some priest Elena couldn't hear spoke words that were supposed to mean forever. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it with shaking hands, hoping, praying for an explanation, an apology, anything. Unknown number. "He played you. Get out of the safe house. They're coming." Elena stared at the message, her brain struggling to process. Before she could respond, before she could think, the television showed Adrien sliding a ring onto Victoria's finger. The kiss was perfunctory, businesslike, but it was real. He'd married her. He'd actually married someone else. Elena turned off the television with numb fingers. The silence that followed was somehow louder than the news had been. She sat in the dark safe house, in the city that had become her prison, and felt something inside her chest crack clean in half. 6 months ago, she'd been someone else entirely. So, 6 months earlier. Trauma 2, we've got an incoming GSW, ETA, 3 minutes. Elena yanked on fresh gloves, her fourth pair that shift. St. Mary's emergency department on a Friday night was controlled chaos, screaming kids with broken bones, elderly patients with chest pain, the usual parade of humanity at its most vulnerable. "What have we got?" she called to the paramedics bursting through the doors. Male, approximately 35, single gunshot wound to the left shoulder, significant blood loss. Elena's training kicked in as they transferred the patient to the gurney. But when she got her first clear look at his face, something in her chest stuttered. He was beautiful in a dangerous way. Sharp jawline, darkened with stubble, dark hair matted with sweat and rain. Gray eyes that locked onto hers with an intensity that should have been impossible for someone who'd been shot, even unconscious. He looked like trouble. "Let's get him stabilized," Dr. Chen ordered, appearing at Elena's elbow. "Elena, start a line." She worked on autopilot, finding a vein despite the man's compromised circulation. His skin was surprisingly warm under her fingers. She noticed scars, old ones, professional ones. This wasn't his first time being hurt. "Vitals?" Dr. Chen demanded. "BP 80/50 and dropping," Elena reported. "Heart rate 140. The man's eyes snapped open. Despite the blood loss, despite the pain he had to be in, those gray eyes found Elena's face and stayed there. "You're safe?" she said instinctively, the words she told every scared patient. "We're going to take care of you." His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't," he gasped. "Don't call police. Sir, you need to stay calm. Promise me." Blood flecked his lips. "No police? Promise." Dr. Chen was already calling orders, preparing for surgery. Elena should have pulled away, should have followed protocol. Gunshot wounds required police reports. But something in his eyes, desperation mixed with command, made her nod. "I promise," she whispered. His grip loosened. He slipped back into unconsciousness. 3 hours later, after surgery removed the bullet and stabilized him, Elena sat at the nurse's station completing charts. She'd almost forgotten about the mystery patient when 2 men in expensive suits appeared in the waiting room. "We're here for the John Doe," one said. "The GSW in OR2. Elena's spine straightened. "I'm sorry, but we can't release patient information. We're family," the second man said smoothly, too smoothly. "His brothers. We've been worried sick." They didn't look worried. They looked like predators sizing up prey. "I'll need to verify with the patient," Elena said, keeping her voice steady. The first man smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made Elena's nursing instincts scream danger. "Of course. We'll wait." Elena walked to the recovery room where their mystery patient was sleeping off anesthesia. She closed the door carefully behind her and moved to his bedside. "Hey," she said softly, touching his uninjured shoulder. "You need to wake up." His eyes opened slowly, still hazy with drugs. "Angel?" "Nurse," Elena corrected. "And you've got company claiming to be your brothers." "Something tells me that's not true." The haziness vanished instantly. He tried to sit up, grimacing at the pain. "How many?" "2. Suits. Expensive watches. Bad vibes." "Fuck." He swung his legs off the bed, moving like someone accustomed to working through pain. "I need to leave." "You just had surgery." "I need to leave now." He fixed those gray eyes on her. "They're not my brothers. They're here to finish what the bullet started." Elena's heart hammered. This was beyond her scope, beyond anything in her nursing textbooks. "There's a service exit." "Show me." She shouldn't have. Every regulation, every policy, every ounce of common sense said she should call security. But Elena had grown up in neighborhoods where you learn to recognize genuine fear versus manipulation. And this man was genuinely afraid. "Follow me," she said, and try not to bleed through your bandages." They made it halfway down the corridor before the suited men appeared at the far end. Elena didn't think. She grabbed the patient's good arm and pulled him into a supply closet, pressing a finger to his lips. Through the crack in the door, she watched the men pass. Heard one of them talking on a phone. "He's here somewhere. Find him. Mr. Moretti wants this cleaned up tonight." Moretti. The name rang a bell, distant and ominous. After the footsteps faded, Elena led the patient through a maze of hallways. Only staff knew, down 2 flights of service stairs and out into the rain-soaked alley behind St. Mary's. "Thank you," he said, and despite the pain etched into his face, his voice was genuine. "You didn't have to—" "You're going to rip your stitches," Elena interrupted, because focusing on the practical kept her from thinking about what she'd just done. "You need antibiotics, pain management, wound care." "I have people who can handle that." "People who can handle bullet wounds. What exactly do you do?" He smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "Nothing legal." "I gathered that." Elena pulled out her phone. "What's your number?" "Why?" "Because in 3 days, those stitches need checking. In 7 days, they come out. You can go to your illegal bullet wound people, or you can text me and I'll meet you somewhere. Your choice." He studied her for a long moment. Rain plastered his dark hair to his forehead. Blood was seeping through his hospital gown. He looked like a fallen angel, beautiful and doomed. "Adrien," he said finally. "My name is Adrien." "Elena." She held out her phone. "Number?" He entered it with one-handed efficiency. "Why are you helping me, Elena?" "Because I'm a nurse," she said simply, "and I promised I'd take care of you." 3 days later, her phone buzzed at 11 p.m. while she was curled up on her couch with bad reality TV and cheaper wine. Stitches hurt. "Is that normal?" Adrien Elena smiled despite herself. "Depends. Have you been taking the antibiotics I told you to get?" "Yes, Nurse Martinez. Are you running a fever?" "No. Then yes. Pain is normal. Take ibuprofen. Rest. Don't do anything stupid." A pause. Then, "Too late. I've already done several stupid things today." "Like what?" "Like texting you when I should be disappearing." Elena's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was her exit point, the moment where she could politely disconnect and return to her safe, boring, uncomplicated life. Instead, she typed, "Where are you?" "Looking at the city from very high up." "That's vague. I'm a vague person. It's part of my charm. I haven't noticed any charm yet. Then I'm doing something wrong. Let me fix that. Can I see you?" Every rational cell in Elena's brain screamed no. This man was trouble-wrapped in expensive tailoring and danger. He'd been shot by people who wanted him dead. He'd admitted to doing illegal things. "Tomorrow," she typed. 2 p.m. Riverside Park, North Entrance. "I'll check your stitches. It's a date. It's a medical consultation." Even better. Elena set her phone down and told herself she was being professional, maintaining continuity of care, ensuring patient recovery. She told herself this had nothing to do with the way Adrien's eyes had found hers in the trauma bay, or the way he'd said "angel" while waking up from anesthesia. She told herself a lot of lies that night. What's up? Adrien was waiting on a bench when Elena arrived, wearing jeans and a black Henley that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Dark sunglasses hid his eyes, but she could feel his attention on her as she approached. "You came," he said. "I said I would." Elena sat beside him, maintaining professional distance. "Lift your shirt." "Usually women buy me dinner first." "Shirt. Now." He obeyed, revealing a torso that confirmed Elena's suspicion. This man spent time staying in dangerous shape. The bandage was clean, properly applied. She peeled it back gently, examining the wound. "Who did this?" she asked. "It's good work. Family doctor. He's used to my particular needs." "Needs like bullet wounds?" "Among other things." Adrien watched her rewrap the bandage with fresh gauze. "You have good hands. Gentle." Elena ignored the way his voice curled around the word gentle. "The wound is healing well. You've been lucky." "I don't believe in luck. I believe in consequences and choices." "Then you made bad choices to get shot." "The worst," he agreed, "but also the best." How is getting shot the best choice? Because it brought me to you. Elena secured the tape with more force than necessary. That's a line. That's the truth. He caught her hand before she could pull away. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you, Elena. The way you looked at those men and knew immediately they were dangerous. The way you risked your career to help a stranger. The way you promised to take care of me, and you meant it. I make that promise to every patient. No. His thumb traced her knuckles, a touch so light it might have been imagined. You don't look at every patient like they're worth saving. Elena's breath caught. Everyone is worth saving. Not me. Adrien's smile was sad around the edges, but I appreciate the sentiment. She should have pulled her hand away, should have restated professional boundaries, given him instructions for wound care, and walked away from whatever this was before it started. Instead, she asked, why were they trying to kill you? Long story. I've got time. Adrien studied her for a moment, then removed his sunglasses. Those gray eyes were clearer now and infinitely tired. My father runs a business empire. Very profitable, very old, very connected. I was supposed to take over, continue the legacy. Instead, I decided I wanted different things. What things? Quieter things, legal things, things that don't require looking over my shoulder. He gestured to his shoulder. This is the consequence of that choice. My father's associates don't appreciate retirement plans. Elena processed this information, reading between the lines. Your father is Moretti, the Moretti everyone whispers about. Yes, and you're trying to leave. I'm trying to survive leaving. Adrien squeezed her hand gently, which is why I should walk away right now and never contact you again, because people around me tend to get hurt. I'm harder to hurt than I look, Elena said. That's what worries me. He stood, moving carefully to protect his injury. Thank you for checking the stitches, Nurse Martinez. Elena, she corrected. Just Elena. Elena. Her name sounded different in his voice, like something valuable. If I asked you to have coffee with me next week, would you say yes? Every warning bell in Elena's head was ringing. This man was dangerous, complicated, wrapped up in a world she'd spent her whole life avoiding. Getting involved with him was potentially the worst decision she could make. Yes, she heard herself say. I'd say yes. Adrien smiled, and it was the real thing this time. No shadows, no calculation, just genuine pleasure. Tuesday, that cafe on Market Street with the terrible coffee and amazing pastries. How do you know about that place? I know everything about this city. It's survival. He walked away before Elena could respond, moving through the park like someone who'd learned to disappear in plain sight. She sat on the bench long after he'd gone, wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. Her phone buzzed. Thank you for today. For the medical care and the conversation. You're remarkable. Adrien Elena smiled despite every rational objection in her head. You're welcome. Rest that shoulder. Only if you promise to scold me if I don't. I absolutely promise. Then I'll be the most obedient patient you've ever had. Somehow, Elena doubted that. Tuesday's coffee turned into Thursday's dinner. Thursday's dinner turned into Saturday's walk through the botanical gardens. Saturday turned into a month of stolen hours where Elena learned that Adrien Moretti was nothing like his reputation and everything like his reputation, all at once. He was gentle with her, always, opening doors, remembering how she took her coffee, listening when she talked about difficult shifts at the hospital. But she also noticed the way he positioned himself between her and potential threats, the way his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, the way he never sat with his back to a door. You're always watching, she said one evening as they shared takeout in her apartment. Always calculating. Old habits. Adrien set down his chopsticks. Hard to unlearn 20 years of survival training. Tell me about it. Your life before this? You don't want to know that person. I want to know you, Elena corrected. All of you. So he told her. Not everything. She could sense the things he held back, the darkest corners he wouldn't let her see. But enough. Enough about a childhood spent learning to fight before learning to read, about a father who valued power over everything, about the first time Adrien realized his family's business empire was built on broken people and blood money. I was 12, he said quietly. My father took me to a warehouse, showed me a man tied to a chair, told me the man had stolen from us, and that consequences mattered more than mercy. Then he handed me a gun. Elena's hand found his. Did you? No, I threw up instead. Disappointing start to the family legacy. Adrien's laugh was bitter. Took me another decade to understand I wasn't weak for refusing. I was just different, wrong-shaped for the life they'd planned. You're not wrong-shaped, Elena said firmly. You're perfectly shaped for who you're supposed to be. And who's that? Someone better than your history, someone choosing differently. Adrien pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. You make me want to believe that. Then believe it. They'd been careful not to rush the physical side of things, both of them dancing around the obvious attraction, both aware that once they crossed that line, there'd be no going back. But that night, with rain tapping against the windows and truth hanging in the air between them, Elena kissed him first. It started gentle, a question more than a demand. Adrien answered by cradling her face in his hands like she was something precious, kissing her back with a reverence that made her chest ache. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. Are you sure? He asked. Because once I have you, Elena, I won't want to let go. Then don't let go, she whispered. He didn't. What? 2 months into whatever they were, relationship felt too small a word for the way Adrien had woven himself into her life. Elena's roommate Jenna cornered her in their kitchen. Okay, spill. Who is he? Elena focused very hard on her coffee. Who is who? The guy who's got you smiling at your phone like a teenager, the one who sends you flowers at the hospital, the mystery man you disappear with 3 nights a week. His name is Adrien. We're seeing each other. Seeing each other? Jenna's eyebrows climbed. That's very vague. It's complicated. Complicated how? Is he married? Criminal? Secretly a vampire? He's trying to get out of a difficult family situation, Elena said carefully. It's taking time. Jenna studied her for a long moment. You're falling for him. I've already fallen. Does he feel the same way? Elena thought about the way Adrien looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, the way he'd shown up at her apartment at 2 a.m. last week, not for sex, but because he'd had a nightmare and needed to know she was real, the way he'd said her name the first time they made love like a prayer and a promise combined. Yes, she said. He feels the same way. Then what's the problem? Elena wished she had an answer that made sense. But how did you explain that the man you loved was trying to escape a world that didn't let people escape? That every moment with him felt borrowed, temporary, like something that could shatter with one wrong move? Her phone buzzed. Need to see you. Something's happened. Adrien Elena's stomach dropped. I have to go. Elena, I'll be careful, I promise. She met Adrien at the safe house. The first time she'd seen it, before it became a prison. He was pacing when she arrived, running his hands through his hair in a gesture she'd learned meant he was working through something bad. What's wrong? She asked. My father knows about you. The words hit like a punch. How? I don't know. Someone saw us, reported back. It doesn't matter how. Adrien grabbed her shoulders, urgent and afraid in a way she'd never seen. Elena, you need to understand what this means. My father doesn't tolerate distractions. He'll see you as leverage, a weakness to exploit. Then we'll be careful. We can't be careful enough. His voice cracked. Do you know what he did to the last person I cared about? Do you want me to describe it? Adrien, he had her killed, Elena, slowly, made sure I knew every detail. I was 17 and I loved her, and he killed her to teach me a lesson about priorities. Elena's breath froze. You never told me because I never wanted you to know that side of my life. But now you need to know. You need to understand what my father is capable of. Adrien's hands shook against her shoulders. I can't lose you. I won't survive losing you. Then what do we do? He pulled back, composing himself with visible effort. I have a plan. It's been in motion for months. Legitimate business ventures, legal documentation, everything I need to completely separate from the family. But it takes time and leverage and one very specific piece. What piece? There's someone my father wants me to marry, Victoria Castellano. Old money, political connections, everything that would strengthen the empire. If I agree to the engagement, it buys me time, makes him think I'm falling in line. Meanwhile, I finalize my exit strategy. Elena's chest constricted. You want to marry someone else? I want to pretend to marry someone else, Adrien corrected fiercely. There's a difference. The engagement would be public, formal, all the right moves to keep my father satisfied. But it wouldn't be real. Nothing about it would be real. How long? 6 months. Maybe less if I can accelerate the timeline. And then I'm out, Elena. Completely out. New identity, new city, new life. A life I want you in every second of. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this would work, that they could outsmart a crime empire with decades of power and violence behind it. He'll hurt you, Elena whispered. If he finds out you're planning to leave, he won't find out. I've been careful. And once I'm gone, I'm taking evidence with me, enough to keep him from ever coming after us. Insurance. Us. Us, Adrien confirmed. He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. I know I'm asking a lot. I know this sounds insane, but I swear to you, Elena, 6 months from now, we'll be somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. Somewhere we can just be two ordinary people who fell in love in the messiest possible way. I don't want ordinary, Elena said. I just want you. You have me. You'll always have me. He kissed her, soft and desperate. Will you wait for me? Can you do that? Elena thought about the rational choice, the safe choice, the choice every fiber of her nurse training said she should make. Then she thought about Adrien's smile when he brought her terrible coffee, his hands gentle on her skin, the way he'd trusted her with his darkest truths. I'll wait, she said. I'll wait as long as it takes. 6 months, he promised. And then we disappear together. The engagement announcement hit the society pages 2 weeks later. Elena saw it while scrolling through news during a break at the hospital. Adrien Moretti and Victoria Castellano, the merger of two powerful families, the romance of the decade. The photo showed them at some charity gala, Adrien in a tuxedo and Victoria in diamonds. They looked perfect together, matched, like they'd been designed by the same expensive architect. Elena's phone buzzed. Don't believe what you see. None of it's real. Only you are real. Adrien. She wanted to believe him. She tried. But as the weeks crawled past and their secret meetings became more rushed, more careful, more afraid, Elena felt something shifting inside her, some certainty cracking. I miss you, she said one night in the safe house, wrapped in Adrien's arms after he'd made love to her like she was something he was trying to memorize. I'm right here. You're at galas with her, dinner parties, fundraisers. I see the photos. Photos aren't truth. Adrien tilted her chin up. Truth is this, you and me. What we have when nobody's watching. When do we stop hiding? Soon. He kissed her forehead. I promise. Soon. But soon became a moving target. The engagement stretched from formal to serious. Wedding plans began, tentative dates, venue options, dress fittings that Victoria apparently enjoyed narrating to anyone who'd listen. 3 months in, Elena sat in her apartment while Jenna watched her with worried eyes. You're disappearing, Jenna said bluntly. Into him. Into this secret relationship that's taking everything and giving you nothing back. That's not true. When's the last time you went out with friends? Took a shift you didn't have to? Did anything that wasn't waiting for him to text? Elena opened her mouth to argue, closed it, opened it again. He needs me. What do you need? The question sat between them, unanswerable. 4 months in, Adrien showed up at Elena's apartment at midnight, exhausted and wired. We need to move up the timeline. What happened? Victoria's pregnant. The words punched the air from Elena's lungs. What? It's not mine. We've never... Adrien paced, frantic. It's not mine, but she's claiming it is. My father is ecstatic, wants to move the wedding up. I need to leave now, Elena. Not in 2 months. Now. Okay. Elena's hands were shaking. Okay, what do we do? I've arranged everything. Next week, there's a window. My father will be out of the country. Security will be minimal. I'll collect the insurance documents, transfer the necessary funds, and we run. Together. Where? I have a place in mind. Small town, Montana. Middle of nowhere. We can disappear there. Elena looked around her apartment, the life she'd built, the career she'd worked for, the friends she'd made. I'll need to quit my job. Tell Jenna something. Tell her you're taking a travel nursing contract. Don't give her details. The less people know, the safer everyone is. Adrien, this is really happening? He pulled her close and she could feel his heart hammering against her chest. This is really happening. 1 week, Elena, 7 days, and then we're free. She believed him. She believed him when he texted coordinates for the safe house. She believed him when he said to pack light and leave her phone behind. She believed him right up until she sat alone in that rain-soaked safe house, watching him marry Victoria Castellano on live television. Now, sitting in the dark with that unknown numbers warning still glowing on her screen, Elena finally understood the truth. She'd been the secret, the side story, the complication that needed to be managed. She'd never been the choice. The door to the safe house rattled. Elena's head snapped up, terror flooding her system. But it wasn't men in expensive suits. It was a woman in a black raincoat, hood up, face partially obscured. "We need to go," the woman said. "Right now." "Who are you?" "Someone who doesn't want to see you dead. Adrien's father knows about this place. He's sending people to clean up his son's mess. That's you, in case you're unclear." Elena grabbed her bag. Everything she owned now fit in one duffel. "Where? Anywhere but here. Move." They ran through rain-soaked streets, the woman moving with the same predatory efficiency as Adrien. Ex-military, Elena's brain cataloged distantly. Trained, dangerous. 3 blocks away, the woman pulled Elena into a 24-hour diner, shoved her into a back booth. "Coffee?" the woman ordered the waitress. 2 cups, black. Elena studied her rescuer in the fluorescent light. Mid-30s, sharp features, eyes that had seen violence and made peace with it. "Who are you?" Elena asked again. "Name's Reese. I work for people who have an interest in keeping Moretti's world destabilized. Your destabilization." "I'm what?" "You're proof his golden son was planning to run, that Adrien was gathering evidence to use against his own father. That information is valuable." Reese sipped her coffee. "So valuable that Moretti Sr. wants you gone before you can tell anyone what you know." "I don't know anything." "You know Adrien was leaving. You know about the insurance documents. You know enough to be a problem." The coffee arrived. Elena wrapped her hands around the cup, trying to stop shaking. "Did Adrien know? That his father would send people after me?" Reese's expression softened slightly. "I think Adrien believed he was smarter than he was. I think he genuinely planned to run with you. But when his father threatened everyone you'd ever cared about unless Adrien went through with the wedding, he chose what he thought was the noble option. But he left me here to die. He left you here thinking you'd be safe. Different thing. Still stupid, but different." Elena laughed, and it came out broken. "So what now? You're my bodyguard?" "I'm your exit strategy. I can get you out of this city, set you up somewhere new. But you need to understand, if you surface, if you contact anyone from your old life, Moretti finds you, and then my job gets a lot harder." "Why do you care?" "I don't, but my employers do, and they pay well." Reese slid a phone across the table. "There's one number in here. Mine. You run into trouble, you call. Otherwise, you disappear. New name, new city, new life. Can you do that?" Elena thought about St. Mary's emergency department, about Jenna, about the version of herself who'd believed in Adrien's promises. "Yes," she said. "I can do that." "Good." Reese stood. "There's a bus leaving in 40 minutes for Denver. Be on it. There's an envelope taped under your seat, cash, ID, instructions. Follow them exactly." "What about Adrien? What about him? Does he know I'm alive?" Reese's smile was thin and sharp. "He knows. Got a message through right before the ceremony. Told him you were safe and he was a coward. Don't expect that information brought him much comfort during his vows." She left Elena sitting in the diner booth, watching rain streak the windows. Somewhere across the city, Adrien Moretti was dancing with his new wife, playing the role his father demanded. Somewhere, men were searching a safe house for a woman who was already gone. Elena finished her coffee and stood. She left exact change on the table. No credit card trail. No unnecessary interaction. She walked to the bus station like someone who'd practiced disappearing because, in a way, she had been. She'd been disappearing into Adrien's world for 6 months, erasing herself piece by piece. Now, it was time to find out who Elena Martinez was when she stopped waiting for someone else to choose her. The bus pulled away from the station at 4:23 a.m. Elena didn't look back. Denver smelled like exhaust and failed dreams. Elena stepped off the bus into morning light that felt too bright, too ordinary for someone whose entire world had imploded 12 hours earlier. Her legs were stiff from the overnight ride, her eyes gritty from not sleeping, her brain still trying to process the gap between what she'd believed and what was real. The envelope Reese had left contained $3,000 in cash, a Colorado driver's license with Elena's photo, but a different name, Sarah Chen, and a handwritten note with an address in a neighborhood Elena had never heard of. Stay here 2 weeks. Keep your head down. I'll be in touch. R. The apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades. Peeling paint, a radiator that clanked like it was trying to communicate in Morse code, windows that overlooked a parking lot where broken glass sparkled in the weak sunlight. It was the opposite of everything Adrien had promised. No ocean view, no quiet peace, no fresh start that felt clean. It was perfect. Elena dropped her duffel bag on the sagging couch and stood in the middle of the empty living room, waiting to feel something. Anger, maybe. Grief. The crushing weight of betrayal. Instead, she felt hollow. Scooped out. Like someone had reached inside her chest and removed all the parts that used to know how to feel things. Her new phone buzzed. Reese's number. You make it? Yes? Good. Stay invisible. I mean it. Elena set the phone on the counter and walked to the bathroom. The mirror showed a stranger, dark circles under eyes that used to sparkle when Adrien texted, hair that needed washing, a face that looked 10 years older than it had a week ago. You're alive, she told her reflection. That's something. The stranger in the mirror didn't look convinced. She showered in water that ran lukewarm at best, changed into clean clothes from her duffel, and realized she had absolutely no idea what to do next. For 6 months, her entire existence had orbited around Adrien, when she'd see him, where they'd meet, how to steal another hour in a world that wanted to keep them apart. Now that access was gone, and she was just floating in space with nothing to grab onto. Her stomach growled. She'd forgotten to eat since yesterday's lunch. The corner store 3 blocks away sold instant ramen and bruised apples. Elena bought both with cash, counting out bills carefully. The cashier barely looked at her, just another anonymous face in a city full of them. Back in the apartment, Elena ate standing at the kitchen counter, staring at the phone Reese had given her. It would be so easy to text Jenna, to call her mom in Phoenix, to reach out to someone from her real life and anchor herself to something familiar. But Reese's warning echoed. If you surface, Moretti finds you. Elena finished the ramen and threw the cup away. She'd worked too hard to become a nurse, survived too much to get there, to throw it all away by being careless now. If invisibility kept her alive, she'd learn to be invisible. The first week passed in a fog of basic survival. Elena found a 24-hour laundromat where nobody asked questions, a library where she could read without buying anything, a diner that served breakfast all day and didn't care if she nursed one coffee for 3 hours. She avoided mirrors, avoided thinking, avoided the screaming silence where Adrien's voice used to live in her head. On day 9, Reese showed up at the apartment without warning, letting herself in with a key Elena hadn't known existed. You look like hell, Reese said by way of greeting. Thanks. You look terrifying as always. Reese smiled slightly, dropping a backpack on the counter. How you holding up? I'm breathing. Is that enough? For now. Reese pulled out a laptop, fingers already moving across the keyboard. We need to talk about your next move. I thought the next move was staying invisible forever. Invisible is temporary. Eventually, you need an actual life, which means work, housing, a believable story. Reese pulled up a document on the screen. I've got 3 options for you. All small towns, all hiring nurses, all far enough from Moretti's reach that you can breathe. Elena moved closer, looking at the listings. Billings, Montana. Durango, Colorado. Flagstaff, Arizona. These are real jobs. Real jobs with real HR departments who think Sarah Chen is a real person with real credentials. I've got people who handle this kind of thing. Reese glanced at her. You pick one, I set it up, you go live your life. Quiet. Boring. Safe. Safe, Elena repeated. The word felt foreign. Unless you want to stay in Denver washing your clothes at midnight and eating ramen for every meal. Elena studied the listings. Durango was high altitude, mountain views, a small hospital serving a scattered rural population. The job description mentioned long shifts and diverse cases, everything from ranch accidents to altitude sickness to the occasional ski injury. This one, she said, pointing. Durango. Good choice. Mountains make it harder for people to sneak up on you. Reese typed something. You start in 3 weeks. That gives you time to get there, find a place, settle in before orientation. Just like that? I just become someone else? You've already become someone else. This just makes it official. Elena sat down on the couch before her legs could give out. I was a good nurse. Before all this, I was really good at my job. You'll be good at it again. Reese closed the laptop. But Elena, Sarah doesn't have a tragic backstory. Sarah doesn't have a crime boss ex-boyfriend. Sarah is boring, pleasant, forgettable. You understand? Be nobody. Be nobody, Reese confirmed. It's the only way this works. After Reese left, Elena sat in the dark apartment and let herself think about Adrien for the first time in 9 days. She wondered if he'd looked for her after the wedding, if he'd gone to the safe house and found it empty, if he felt relief or regret or anything at all. She wondered if Victoria knew about her, if the baby was real, if Adrien was playing house with his new wife while Elena learned to become a ghost. Then she stopped wondering, because wondering was just another form of waiting, and she was done waiting for Adrien Moretti to be who he'd promised. 2 weeks later, Elena, now Sarah Chen to everyone who asked, drove a used Honda Civic into Durango, Colorado, with everything she owned in the back seat. The mountains rose around the town like walls, protection or prison, depending on how you looked at it. The apartment she'd rented sight unseen was smaller than the Denver place, but cleaner, with windows that actually sealed and a landlord who'd taken her first month's rent without asking uncomfortable questions. It was furnished in a style that could be generously described as aggressively beige, but the bed was comfortable and the shower ran hot. Elena unpacked methodically. Clothes in the dresser, toiletries in the bathroom, the few books she'd bought in Denver on the shelf. When everything was put away, the apartment still looked empty, unlived in, like a stage set waiting for an actual person to arrive. Her phone buzzed, the new number she'd gotten for Sarah Chen's life. Orientation tomorrow, 8 a.m. Don't be late. Reese. I won't. Thank you. For what? For getting me out. A long pause, then, just stay out. And Elena, stop thanking me. I'm not doing this for free. Elena smiled despite everything. At least Reese was honest about her motivations. That was more than she could say for some people. Sleep didn't come easy that night. She lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to unfamiliar sounds. A neighbor's television through the wall, traffic on the street below, the wind in the mountains making noises she'd never heard before. Every sound made her tense, made her think of men in suits coming to finish what Adrien's father started. But no one came. The night passed. Morning arrived with pale sunlight through cheap blinds. Elena got up, dressed in scrubs she'd bought online, and looked at herself in the mirror. Sarah Chen looked back. Same face, different name, brand new lies. You can do this, she told her reflection. You've done harder things. The reflection didn't argue. Durango Community Hospital was smaller than St. Mary's, but clean, organized, and apparently desperate enough for nurses that they'd hired Sarah Chen with minimal background checking. The HR director, a cheerful woman named Patricia, who wore too much perfume, walked Elena through orientation with the kind of efficiency that suggested she'd done this many times. You'll be on the med-surg floor to start, Patricia explained, handing Elena a badge with Sarah's name and photo. 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week usually, though we might need you for extra coverage during ski season. Dr. Morrison runs a tight ship, but he's fair. Questions? No, ma'am. Good. Cafeteria's on the second floor. Break room has decent coffee if you don't mind it strong. And we're one big family here, so don't be shy about asking for help. Patricia smiled. We're glad to have you, Sarah. The name still felt wrong in Elena's ears, but she smiled back. Glad to be here. The first shift was exactly what Elena needed. Too busy to think. Too focused on patient care to spiral into her own head. A rancher with a compound fracture from a horse accident. A kid with appendicitis. an elderly woman with pneumonia who reminded Elena of her grandmother and made her chest ache with homesickness for a life she couldn't have anymore. She worked on autopilot, her training carrying her through assessments and medication administration, and the thousand small tasks that made up a nurse's shift. It felt good to be useful again, to have a purpose beyond survival. During her lunch break, another nurse, young, blonde, aggressively friendly, sat down across from her in the cafeteria. "You're the new girl," she said. "Sarah, right? I'm Katie. Been here 2 years. You'll love it once you get used to the pace." "Thanks, still figuring everything out." "Where'd you work before?" Elena had practiced this answer. "Small clinic in Nevada. Wanted a change of scenery." "Well, you picked the right place for scenery. Mountains are gorgeous, towns small enough that you actually know your neighbors, and the hiking is incredible if you're into that." Katie bit into her sandwich. "You got family here?" "No, just me." "Boyfriend? Girlfriend?" "Single," Elena said, and the word tasted like ash. "Good. The dating pool here is small but quality. I'll introduce you around." Katie grinned. "Unless you're one of those married to the job types? Just focused on settling in right now." "Fair enough. But when you're ready for a night out, you let me know. There's this bar downtown that does trivia on Thursdays, and our team desperately needs someone with actual brain cells." Elena found herself smiling. "I'll think about it." After her shift, she drove back to her empty apartment and stood in the shower until the water ran cold. She'd survived day 1 of her new life. Tomorrow she'd survive day 2. Eventually, maybe, it would stop feeling like survival and start feeling like living. Her personal phone, the one Reese had given her, buzzed as she was getting into bed. How was day 1? Exhausting. Good. Anyone ask questions? Nothing I couldn't handle. Keep it that way. Elena set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere, in a city she couldn't name, Adrien was probably lying in bed next to his wife. Probably thinking about his empire and his father's expectations and all the choices that had led him to that moment. Probably not thinking about Elena at all. She turned off the light and closed her eyes, willing sleep to come. The weeks blurred together. Elena, Sarah, fell into a rhythm. Work 3 days, recover 2 days, repeat. She learned the hospital's systems, the staff's personalities, the subtle politics that existed in every workplace. She kept her head down, did her job well, and slowly, carefully, built a life that looked almost normal. Katie kept her promise about trivia night. Elena went once, mostly to seem like a regular person who did regular things. Their team came in third, and afterward Katie dragged her to a different bar where the music was too loud and the beer was cheap. "So what's your story?" Katie asked, slightly drunk and completely nosy. "And don't give me that Nevada clinic crap. Nobody moves to Durango for no reason." "Needed a fresh start," Elena said, which was true enough. "Bad breakup?" "Something like that." "Was he an asshole?" Elena took a long drink of her beer. "He was complicated." Complicated is just another word for asshole with a good excuse. Katie signaled for another round. "You're better off without him, whoever he was." "I know." "Do you, though? Because you've got that look. That still checking my phone look. That maybe he'll call look." Elena set down her beer carefully. "He's not going to call." "Good. Because you seem nice, Sarah, and nice people don't deserve complicated assholes." Katie raised her glass. "To fresh starts and better choices." Elena clinked her glass against Katie's and pretended the toast didn't make her want to cry. 3 months into Durango, Elena had a life that looked real from the outside. She had an apartment with furniture she'd picked out herself. She had coworkers who invited her to things. She had a routine, a paycheck, a name that people called her without irony. She had everything except the truth. The nightmare started around month 4. Always the same. Elena sitting in the safe house, watching the television, seeing Adrien marry Victoria over and over again in an endless loop. Sometimes she'd run to stop him, sometimes she'd scream, sometimes she'd just sit there while the world ended in slow motion. She'd wake up gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, her heart trying to escape her chest. Then she'd remember where she was, who she was supposed to be, the careful lies she'd built around herself like armor. Dr. Morrison noticed first. He caught her in the break room one morning after a particularly bad night, her hand shaking as she tried to pour coffee. "You okay, Sarah?" "Fine. Just tired." He studied her with the kind of doctor look that saw past bullshit. "When's the last time you took a day off?" "I don't know. A while." "Take tomorrow." "That's not a suggestion." He poured his own coffee, added too much sugar. "I've been doing this 30 years. I know what burnout looks like, and you're heading there fast." "I can handle it." "I'm sure you can. But you shouldn't have to. Take a break. Go hiking. Read a book. Sleep for 16 hours. I don't care what you do, just don't come back here until you've remembered why you became a nurse in the first place." Elena wanted to argue, but the truth was she couldn't remember why she'd become a nurse, couldn't remember who she'd been before Adrien, couldn't remember anything except running and hiding and pretending to be someone she wasn't. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you." The next day, Elena drove up into the mountains without a destination, following roads that got narrower and steeper until she found a trailhead that looked deserted. She hiked for 3 hours, pushing her body until her lungs burned and her legs ached, until the only thing she could think about was the next step and the step after that. At the top of the trail, she found a clearing with a view that stretched for miles, mountains and valleys, and sky so blue it hurt to look at. She sat on a boulder and let herself cry for the first time since leaving Denver. She cried for the life she'd lost, for the version of herself who'd believed in Adrien's promises, for the future they'd planned in whispered conversations at 3 a.m, for the stupidity of thinking love could conquer everything when love couldn't even conquer one man's fear of his father. When the tears finally stopped, Elena felt empty but lighter, like she'd been carrying something heavy and had finally set it down. Her phone rang, not the burner Reese had given her, but her new Sarah Chen phone, Katie's name on the screen. "Hey," Elena answered, voice rough. "Hey yourself, you sound weird. You okay?" "Just hiking. What's up?" "So there's this guy, friend of my boyfriend's. Nice, normal, works in construction. I mentioned you. He thinks you sound interesting, and we're all going to dinner Friday if you want to come meet him." Elena looked out at the mountains, at the vast empty space where her future used to be. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "It's just dinner, Sarah, no pressure. But you can't hide forever, you know. Eventually you've got to start living again." "I am living." "You're existing. There's a difference." Katie's voice softened. "Look, I get it. Bad breakup, fresh start, all that. But part of starting over is actually starting, not just running in place." "I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking. Friday at 7. I'll text you the address." After Katie hung up, Elena sat on the boulder for another hour, watching the sun move across the sky. Part of her wanted to say yes to dinner, to try being normal, to see if Sarah Chen could have something that Elena Martinez couldn't. But the larger part of her knew the truth. She wasn't ready. Maybe she'd never be ready. Because how did you let someone new in when the last person you'd trusted had left you sitting in a safe house while he married someone else? That night, back in her apartment, Elena's burner phone buzzed for the first time in weeks. "Need to talk. Call me." Elena dialed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Maybe nothing. Maybe something." Reese's voice was tight. "You haven't been online, have you? Social media, news sites, anything like that?" "No, you told me to stay invisible." "Good. Keep it that way, but you should know there's been movement in Moretti's world. His wife filed for divorce 3 weeks ago, claimed the baby wasn't his, caused a whole scandal. Old man Moretti is furious. Adrien's been basically exiled from the family business." Elena's heart stopped. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because exiled men do desperate things. And you're the one thing Adrien actually cared about. If he's looking for something to grab onto, he might come looking for you. He doesn't know where I am." "He's got resources, Elena. Maybe not family resources anymore, but connections, money, motivation. I need you to be extra careful right now, extra invisible. If anything feels off, you call me immediately. Understand?" "Yes." "I mean it. This guy broke your heart, but he's still dangerous. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because wanting to save you might get you killed." After Reese hung up, Elena sat in the dark apartment and let the information settle. Adrien was free, or at least free adjacent. The marriage had imploded exactly the way any marriage built on lies and strategy would. Part of her, the stupid, stubborn part that had loved him despite everything, wondered if he was okay, if he was safe, if exile from his father's world was freedom or just a different kind of prison. The smarter part of her knew it didn't matter. Whatever Adrien was going through, it wasn't her problem anymore. She'd survived without him, built a life without him, learned to sleep in a bed that didn't smell like his cologne, and wake up to mornings that didn't include his texts. She was done being collateral damage in someone else's war. Friday came. Elena almost didn't go to dinner. She stood in her apartment dressed in jeans and a sweater that Katie had proclaimed cute but approachable, and seriously considered calling with an excuse about a migraine or a last-minute shift. But Katie's words echoed, "Eventually, you've got to start living again." The restaurant was downtown, one of those farm-to-table places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs. Katie waved from a corner booth, her boyfriend Mark beside her, and across from them, a man who looked exactly like what you'd cast for nice guy with steady job. "Sarah, this is Connor," Katie said. "Connor, Sarah, there. Introduction's done. Everyone be normal." Connor smiled, and it was a good smile, genuine, a little shy, no hidden agenda. "Nice to meet you, Sarah. Katie's told me absolutely nothing about you except that you're a nurse and you like trivia." "That's pretty much all there is to know," Elena said, sliding into the booth. "I doubt that, but we can start there." Dinner was easier than Elena expected. Connor was funny without trying too hard, asked questions without being invasive, and had the kind of steady, calm energy that probably came from working with his hands and sleeping well at night. He told stories about construction disasters and asked about nursing horror stories, and Elena found herself laughing at his description of a bathroom renovation gone catastrophically wrong. "So you just left the homeowner with a toilet in their front yard?" she asked. "For 3 days. In their defense, we did put a tarp over it." Connor grinned. "They left us a very angry review, but they also referred us to their neighbors, so I guess it evened out." After dinner, walking to their cars in the cool mountain air, Connor fell into step beside Elena. "I had a good time tonight," he said. "I know Katie ambushed you into this, but I'm glad she did." "Me too," Elena admitted. "Would you want to do it again sometime, without the Katie supervision?" Elena looked at him, really looked. He was handsome in an uncomplicated way. Seemed kind, seemed stable, seemed like exactly the kind of person Sarah Chen should be dating. "Yes," she heard herself say. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers. Connor texted her before she'd even made it home. "Thanks for giving me a chance. Looking forward to next time." Elena stared at the message, waiting to feel something. Excitement, maybe. Anticipation. The flutter of new possibility. Instead, she felt tired and guilty, and like she was cheating on a ghost. She texted back anyway. "Me too." Because Katie was right. She couldn't hide forever. Couldn't spend the rest of her life mourning something that had never been real in the first place. If Adrien Moretti had taught her anything, it was that promises were just words. Action was what mattered. And the only person taking action in Elena's life right now was Elena herself. So she'd go on a second date with Connor. She'd keep working at the hospital. She'd keep building Sarah Chen's life one careful brick at a time. And if some nights she still woke up gasping from dreams of rain-soaked safe houses and televised weddings, well, nobody had to know about that except her. The second date with Connor happened on a Tuesday afternoon, both of them working around shift schedules. He took Elena to a coffee shop that roasted their own beans and had mismatched furniture that somehow worked. They sat by the window, watching tourists browse the art galleries across the street, and Connor told her about growing up in Wyoming with 4 brothers and a mother who'd raised them all single-handedly after their father died. She was terrifying, he said, smiling at the memory. 5 foot nothing, but she could stop a fight with just a look. We learned real quick not to test her. Sounds like she did a good job, Elena said. You turned out decent. Decent. That's the kindest review I've gotten in months. Connor stirred sugar into his coffee. What about you? Family? Elena had practiced this answer too, but it still felt like swallowing glass. My mom's in Arizona. We talk sometimes. I'm an only child. Close with her? We're working on it. Connor nodded like he understood complicated family dynamics, which maybe he did. And before Durango, Katie said you worked in Nevada. Small clinic, nothing exciting. Elena redirected before he could ask follow-up questions. How'd you end up in construction? He let her change the subject, launching into a story about dropping out of college after one semester because he couldn't sit still in classrooms. how he'd started as a laborer on a framing crew and worked his way up. Elena listened and laughed at the right moments and felt like a fraud the entire time. Because Sarah Chen could sit here and have coffee with a nice man who had no idea she was a lie. But Elena Martinez was still somewhere in the cracks, screaming that this was wrong, that pretending to be normal when your entire life was built on running and hiding wasn't fair to anyone. "You got quiet," Connor observed. "I'm boring you, aren't I?" "No, sorry, just tired, long shift yesterday. We can cut this short if you need to rest." "No," Elena said quickly. "I'm fine. Tell me about the project you're working on now." So he did, and Elena focused on being present, being Sarah, being someone who could have uncomplicated coffee dates without ghosts sitting at the table. After coffee, Connor walked her to her car. "I'd like to see you again," he said, "if you're interested." "I am," Elena replied and tried to mean it. But what? You've got a but in your voice, like you're interested but also hesitant, and that's okay. I just want to know where I stand. Elena looked at him, really looked. He deserved honesty, or at least as much honesty as she could give without destroying the careful architecture of her lies. "I got out of something complicated," she said carefully, "and I'm still figuring out how to be uncomplicated. So if I'm weird or distant sometimes, it's not you. It's just me trying to get my head straight." Connor considered this. Complicated ex? Very. "He hurt you?" "Not the way you're thinking, but yeah, he hurt me." "Well, he's an idiot." Connor touched her shoulder, brief and gentle. "Take all the time you need, Sarah. I'm not going anywhere." After he left, Elena sat in her car and let the tears come. Because Connor was exactly what she should want: stable, honest, present. But wanting him felt like betraying something, even though the something she'd be betraying had already betrayed her first. Her burner phone buzzed. "Reese. Update. Moretti's been spotted in Denver. Just him, no security detail. Looks like he's searching for something." Elena's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "How close?" "Not close enough to worry yet, but stay alert." "And Elena? If he finds you, don't be stupid. Call me before you do anything." "Like what?" "Like talking to him, like listening to whatever story he's selling, like believing him." Elena didn't respond. She drove back to her apartment, locked the door, checked the windows, and tried to convince herself that Adrien being in Denver meant nothing. Denver was a big city. Durango was hours away. He had no way of knowing where she was. But that night, she dreamed of him anyway. Not the wedding this time, something worse. Adrien standing in the rain outside her apartment, looking exactly like he had that first night in the emergency room. Wounded, desperate, real. In the dream, she opened the door. Let him in. Let him explain. In the dream, she forgave him. She woke up furious at herself. Work became her refuge. Elena threw herself into 12-hour shifts, picking up extra coverage, volunteering for the cases nobody else wanted. Anything to keep her brain occupied and her hands busy. Dr. Morrison noticed, of course. He cornered her in the break room after a particularly brutal shift involving a car accident and 3 critical patients. "You trying to work yourself to death, Sarah?" "Just doing my job." "Your job doesn't require 16-hour days." He poured coffee that had been sitting too long, drank it anyway. "What are you running from?" Elena's head snapped up. "What?" "People work like this for 2 reasons. They love it or they're avoiding something else. You're good at your job, but you don't love it enough to destroy yourself over it. So what's the something else?" "I'm fine." That's what everyone says right before they're not fine. Dr. Morrison set down his cup. "Look, I don't know what happened before you came here, and I'm not asking, but I do know burnout when I see it, and you're sprinting toward it like it's the finish line. I just need to stay busy." "Why?" "Because staying busy meant not thinking, not remembering, not wondering if Adrien was actually looking for her, or if Reese was being paranoid. Not questioning whether she'd made the right choice in running, or if she should have stayed and fought for what they had." "Personal stuff," Elena said finally. "I'm dealing with it." "Are you?" "Because dealing with it usually involves actually dealing with it, not working yourself into the ground." Before Elena could respond, her pager went off. Trauma incoming. She grabbed it like a lifeline. "Saved by the emergency," Dr. Morrison said dryly. "But Sarah, this conversation isn't over." The trauma was a skiing accident. broken leg, possible internal bleeding, 19 years old and scared out of his mind. Elena worked on autopilot, establishing lines and running tests while the kids' friends hovered in the waiting room, all of them looking too young to be dealing with mortality. "Am I going to die?" the kid asked, teeth chattering from shock and pain. "Not on my watch," Elena promised. The same words she'd said to Adrien that first night. The same words that had started everything. She pushed the memory away and focused on saving the life in front of her. Later, after the kid was stable and heading to surgery, Elena found his friends in the waiting room. 3 college students who'd pooled money for a ski trip, now facing the reality that fun could turn dangerous in an instant. "He's going to be okay," Elena told them. "Surgery will fix the leg, and the doctors are watching for internal injuries, but he's young and healthy. He'll recover." One of the girls started crying. Her boyfriend put an arm around her, looking relieved and exhausted. "Thank you," he said, "for taking care of him." Elena nodded and walked away before they could see her own eyes watering, because she was thinking about Adrien's friends, if he had any, about who'd been there to take care of him when his world imploded, about whether he was alone now, exiled and searching, or if he'd found new people to trust. She was thinking about him too much. Again. Her phone buzzed. Connor. "Hey, I know you're working, but wanted to say hi. Hope your shift is going okay." Elena stared at the message. Connor was safe. Connor was simple. Connor didn't come with fathers who ordered hits or empires built on blood or marriages of convenience that ended in public scandal. Shifts brutal, but managing. "Thanks for checking in. Want to get dinner when you're off? Or is that too presumptuous?" "Dinner sounds good. I'll text you when I am done." She pocketed the phone and went back to work, trying to ignore the guilt that came with using Connor as a shield against her own thoughts. Dinner happened at a burger place Connor swore had the best sweet potato fries in Colorado. He wasn't wrong. Elena ate and listened to him talk about a deck renovation that had turned into a full structural overhaul, and tried to be present in the moment instead of wondering if Adrien had ever tried sweet potato fries, or if his world of expensive restaurants and strategic dinners included things as simple as good fries and easy conversation. "You're doing it again," Connor said gently. "Doing what?" "Disappearing. You're sitting right here, but you're somewhere else." Elena set down her burger. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to preach. I'm not mad, just curious. Where do you go when you check out like that?" "Nowhere good." Connor waited, patient in a way that made Elena's chest ache. "I told you about my ex," she said finally. "The complicated one. I thought I was over it, thought I'd moved on, but apparently I'm worse at moving on than I thought." "How long ago did it end?" 6 months? Almost 7? That's not that long. Not for something that mattered. It shouldn't have mattered. It was a mistake from the beginning. "But it did matter," Connor said. "Otherwise you wouldn't still be stuck on it." Elena looked at her plate, at the half-eaten burger and cooling fries. "He promised me things. A future. A way out of the life he was stuck in. And I believed him. I left everything. My job, my friends, my apartment. I waited for him to keep his promise. And instead I watched him marry someone else on television while I sat alone in a place he'd told me was safe." The words came out flat, factual, like she was reciting someone else's story. Connor was quiet for a long moment. "That's brutal." "Yeah. And you're here now because you ran. I'm here because staying would have gotten me killed. His father doesn't like loose ends." "Jesus, Sarah." Connor reached across the table, covered her hand with his. "I'm sorry. I had no idea it was that serious. It's not your problem. Maybe not. But I'm making it my business to help you forget him, if you'll let me." Elena looked at their hands, Connor's rough with calluses and scars from work, hers marked with needle sticks and years of washing. 2 people trying to build something normal out of the wreckage of their separate pasts. "I want to let you," she said honestly. "I'm just not sure I know how." "Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure, no timeline, just 2 people having dinner and seeing where it goes." It should have been romantic. It should have been exactly what Elena needed. Instead, it felt like settling. But maybe settling was what grown-ups did. Maybe the grand passion she'd had with Adrien was just the universe's way of teaching her what not to want. Maybe quiet and stable and safe was the actual goal. and everything else was just fireworks that burned too bright and left you with nothing but smoke. Okay, Elena said, let's see where it goes. Connor smiled, squeezed her hand, and signaled for the check. That night, Elena lay in bed and let herself think about Adrien for exactly 5 minutes. It was a trick she'd learned. Set a timer, allow the thoughts, then lock them away when the time was up. Contained grief was manageable grief. She thought about his hands on her skin, his voice in the dark, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in a world of performance and lies. She thought about believing him, trusting him, loving him so completely that she'd abandoned everything familiar to chase his promises. She thought about the wedding, about sitting alone, about understanding finally that she'd been a secret he'd kept, not a future he'd chosen. When the timer went off, Elena got up, washed her face, and went to bed. Tomorrow she'd work another shift. Tomorrow Connor would probably text something sweet. Tomorrow she'd continue building Sarah Chen's life one careful day at a time. Tomorrow Adrien would still be in Denver, searching for something he'd never find, because the Elena he'd known didn't exist anymore. The week passed in a blur of work and deliberate normalcy. Elena had coffee with Katie, went on another date with Connor, picked up an extra shift to cover for a sick coworker. She was so focused on performing normal that she almost missed the man watching her from across the hospital parking lot. Almost. Elena's nursing instincts, the ones that had kept her alive in bad neighborhoods and dangerous situations, screamed at her to notice. She looked up from unlocking her car and saw him standing near a black sedan. Expensive suit, dark hair, wrong posture for a visitor or patient. Their eyes met across 50 feet of asphalt. Not Adrien, but someone who worked for him, or had worked for him, or was looking for him. Elena knew the type. She got in her car with deliberately casual movements, started the engine, and drove away like nothing was wrong. She took a route that wound through residential streets, checking her rearview mirror obsessively. The black sedan appeared 3 turns later, staying back but definitely following. Elena's heart hammered. She pulled out her phone, almost dialed Reese, then stopped. If she called for help, the conversation would be documented. If this went wrong, it would put Reese at risk too. Instead, Elena drove to the police station, pulled into the parking lot, and sat there with her engine running. The black sedan drove past slowly, then disappeared around the corner. She waited 20 minutes. Nothing. Finally, she drove to her apartment via a maze of random turns and backtracking. No one followed. But when she got home, she locked every window, checked every closet, and slept with her phone in her hand. The next morning, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tonight, 9 p.m. The overlook on Canyon Road, come alone. Elena stared at the message. Every instinct said, don't go. This is a trap. You're not that stupid. But another part of her, the part that had loved Adrien, that still sometimes woke up reaching for him, needed to know, needed to understand why someone was following her now, months after she'd disappeared. She texted Reese, got contacted, meeting tonight at 9, Canyon Road overlook. Reese responded immediately, absolutely not, do not go. I'm going. Then I'm coming with you. They said come alone. And you're stupid enough to listen? I need to know what this is about. A long pause, then, fine, but I'm watching from distance. Anything goes wrong, I'm there in 30 seconds. Do not be a hero. Elena spent the day at work trying to focus on patients instead of the meeting. She failed spectacularly, nearly administering the wrong medication to a diabetic patient before Katie caught the error. Where's your head today? Katie demanded. Sorry, distracted. No kidding, you almost killed Mrs. Patterson. What's going on? Nothing, just tired. Katie studied her with narrowed eyes. You're a terrible liar, Sarah. Whatever it is, be careful, okay? I will. At 8:45, Elena drove up Canyon Road to the overlook, where tourists took photos during the day. At night, it was deserted, just empty parking lot and a view of Durango's lights spread below like fallen stars. The black sedan was already there. Elena parked next to it, left her engine running, and waited. The sedan's driver door opened. A woman got out, tall and blonde and familiar in a way that made Elena's stomach drop. Victoria Castellano, Adrien's wife, ex-wife. She walked to Elena's passenger side, tapped on the window. Elena unlocked the door. Victoria slid into the seat with the kind of grace that came from expensive finishing schools. Up close, she was beautiful in a sharp-edged way, all perfect bone structure and calculated expressions. But her eyes were tired, and there was a bruise on her wrist she'd tried to cover with foundation. "Hello, Elena," she said. "Or should I call you Sarah?" Elena's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "How did you find me?" "I'm good at finding things people want to keep hidden. Comes with the territory of being married to a Moretti." Victoria's smile was bitter. Or being divorced from one. "What do you want?" "The same thing you want. To make sure Adrien doesn't destroy any more lives." Victoria pulled out her phone, showed Elena a photo. Adrien, thinner than Elena remembered, standing outside an apartment building Elena didn't recognize. "He's in Denver, looking for you. He's been looking for months." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand something about my ex-husband. He's obsessed with saving you. Thinks if he finds you, explains everything, you'll forgive him and ride off into the sunset together." Victoria's voice was cold. "And that obsession is going to get you killed." "I don't understand." "Adrien's father wants you dead. Has wanted you dead since the moment he found out about you. The only reason you're still alive is because Adrien convinced him you'd disappeared permanently, that you weren't a threat." Victoria leaned closer. "But if Adrien finds you, if he makes contact, his father will know, and he'll finish what he started." Elena's mouth was dry. "Why do you care?" "Because I spent 8 months married to a man who loved someone else, who talked in his sleep about ocean houses and fresh starts, who looked at me like I was a prison sentence." Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "I don't love Adrien. Never did. Our marriage was business, but I also don't want to watch him throw away his life for a woman who was smart enough to run." "So what are you asking me to do?" "Stay disappeared. If Adrien contacts you, don't respond. Don't meet him. Don't give him hope." Victoria's eyes were hard. "And if you care about him at all, you'll let him think you've moved on, because the only way he survives this is if he believes you're gone for good." "He married you," Elena said, the words tasting like poison, "while I waited for him. He made his choice. He made the only choice he could. His father threatened to kill your mother, your friends, everyone you'd ever cared about." Victoria pulled out a piece of paper, unfolded it. "These are the names. Your mother, Maria, your roommate, Jenna, your old co-worker, Dr. Chen. Adrien's father had files on all of them. Surveillance photos, detailed information about their routines." Elena took the paper with shaking hands, saw her mother's name, her address in Phoenix, Jenna's coffee shop she visited every morning, Dr. Chen's kids' school. "He would have killed them," Victoria said quietly, slowly, and made sure Adrien knew every detail. "So Adrien chose the wedding, chose to let you think he'd betrayed you, because believing he was a coward was better than you watching everyone you loved die." The paper fell from Elena's fingers. "Why didn't he tell me?" "Because you would have done something stupid, tried to protect them, gotten yourself killed." Victoria picked up the paper, refolded it. "This way, you ran. You survived. You get to live a life he can't be part of. And you want me to keep living that life. I want you to keep breathing, whether that matters to you or not." Elena looked out at the lights of Durango, at the life she'd built from nothing, Sarah Chen's life. Safe, boring, alive. "If I don't respond," she said slowly, "he'll keep looking. Eventually he'll stop. Eventually he'll accept that you're gone." Victoria opened the passenger door. "Or he won't, and his obsession will destroy him. Either way, it's not your problem anymore." "You're wrong." "About what?" "You said you spent 8 months married to someone who loved someone else. But you were married to someone who loved so completely, he sacrificed everything to keep that person safe." Elena met Victoria's eyes. "That's not nothing." "No," Victoria agreed. "It's not nothing, but it's also not enough." She got out of the car, walked back to the sedan, and drove away. Elena sat in the overlook parking lot until her phone buzzed with Reese's message. "You alive?" "Yes." "What happened?" "I'll tell you later. I need to think." Elena drove home and spent the night staring at the ceiling, Victoria's words echoing in her head. Adrien had married Victoria to save Elena's mother, her friends, everyone she'd ever cared about. He'd let Elena believe he was a coward and a liar because that was safer than the truth. He'd loved her enough to become the villain in her story. And now he was searching for her, desperate and exiled, trying to find the one person he'd sacrificed everything to protect. Elena wanted to hate him for it, wanted to stay angry, stay hurt, stay safe in her carefully constructed new life. Instead, she just felt tired. Her phone buzzed. Connor. Good morning. Want to grab breakfast before your shift? Elena looked at the message, thought about Connor's steady kindness, his uncomplicated affection, the normal future he represented. Then she thought about Adrien, about loving someone so much you'd let them think you betrayed them, about the kind of courage it took to become the villain to save the person you loved. She didn't know what to do with that information. She didn't know if it changed anything. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Elena texted Connor back with an excuse about an early meeting, then spent breakfast staring at cold coffee and trying to make sense of everything Victoria had told her. The information sat in her chest like a stone, heavy and impossible to ignore. Adrien hadn't betrayed her. He'd saved her. And somehow that was worse. Because betrayal she could hate. Betrayal gave her permission to move on, to build Sarah Chen's life without guilt. But sacrifice? Love so complete it destroyed itself to keep her safe? That was a different kind of wound entirely. You look like hell, Katie said when Elena showed up for her shift 20 minutes late, still wearing yesterday's makeup. Didn't sleep well. Clearly, you want to talk about it? Not really. Katie studied her for a moment, then handed her a patient chart. Room 3 needs vitals. Try not to kill anyone today, okay? I don't have the energy to cover for you twice in 1 week. Elena took the chart and threw herself into work, but her mind kept circling back to Victoria's words. His father threatened to kill your mother. Elena pulled out her personal phone during lunch break, stared at her mom's number, and almost called just to hear her voice, to confirm she was safe. She didn't, because calling would mean explaining, and explaining would mean lying, and Elena was so tired of lies. Instead, she texted Reese. Need to talk. Not urgent, but soon. The response came an hour later. Tonight. That diner on Main. 8 p.m. Reese was already in a back booth when Elena arrived, nursing coffee that looked like it had been sitting too long. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. What happened at the Overlook? Elena slid into the seat across from her. Victoria Castellanos showed up, Adrien's ex-wife. Reese's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. What did she want? To warn me. She said Adrien's looking for me, and if he finds me, his father will finish what he started. Elena wrapped her hands around the coffee mug the waitress brought. She also told me why he married her. His father threatened everyone I care about. My mom, my friends, everyone. And you believe her? I don't know. Do you? Reese was quiet for a long moment. I've heard things. Moretti Sr. doesn't make empty threats. If he said he'd kill people to control his son, he meant it. So Adrien married her to save them. To save me. Maybe. Or maybe Victoria's playing you, using your feelings against you. Reese leaned forward. Here's what I know for sure. Adrien Moretti is in Denver asking questions, showing your photo, offering money for information. Whether he's doing it out of love or guilt or obsession doesn't matter. The result is the same. He finds you, you're exposed. You're exposed, you're dead. What if I want to see him? Then you're stupider than I thought. Elena flinched. That's not fair. Fair? Reese's laugh was sharp. You want fair? Fair is you get to live a boring life as Sarah Chen because some guy decided his daddy issues were worth protecting you. Fair is you don't throw that away because your heart wants what it wants. She pulled out her phone, showed Elena a photo. This is what happened to the last person who got between Moretti Sr. and his empire. The photo was brutal. A man, beaten beyond recognition, dumped in an alley like trash. That was 3 weeks ago, Reese said flatly. One of Adrien's old friends. Someone who tried to help him gather evidence against his father. Moretti Sr. found out and made an example. Elena pushed the phone away, stomach churning. I get it. Do you? Because you're sitting here asking about seeing him like this is some romantic movie where love conquers all. This isn't a movie, Elena. This is real life where people die bloody deaths in alleys. I know that. Then act like it. Stop wondering if Adrien loved you. Stop caring why he did what he did. Just keep your head down and stay alive. Reese pocketed her phone. That's the only thing that matters. After Reese left, Elena sat in the booth and stared at the table. Everything Reese said was logical, practical, right. Getting involved with Adrien again would be suicide. His father was a monster. The smart choice was obvious. But Elena kept thinking about Adrien standing at that altar, knowing he was destroying the one good thing in his life to keep her safe. Kept thinking about him searching Denver, desperate and alone, trying to find her. Kept thinking about love that sacrificed everything and asked for nothing back. Her phone buzzed. Connor again. Haven't heard from you in a couple of days. Everything okay? Elena stared at the message. Connor deserved better than this. Better than someone who couldn't stop thinking about a man who'd nearly gotten her killed. Better than Sarah Chen, who was just Elena's ghost wearing a fake name. I'm sorry, she typed. I need some space. It's not you. It's me dealing with stuff from my past. His response came quickly. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm here when you're ready. Simple, kind, uncomplicated. Everything Adrien wasn't. Elena drove home and found a package waiting at her apartment door. No return address, just her name, her real name, written in handwriting she recognized instantly. Her hands shook as she brought it inside, locked the door, and stared at the box like it might explode. It probably should have gone straight to the trash, should have been left unopened, a mystery she didn't need solved. Instead, Elena grabbed scissors and cut through the tape. Inside was a leather journal, expensive and well-worn. A note on top in Adrien's handwriting. I know you probably hate me, you should, but you deserve to know the truth, all of it, even the parts that make me look worse. Elena opened the journal. The first page was dated 8 months ago, 2 weeks after they'd met. Met a woman today who looked at me like I was worth saving. Didn't have the heart to tell her she's wrong. She flipped through pages of Adrien's thoughts, his plans, his desperate attempts to build an exit strategy that would keep her safe. Details about evidence he was gathering against his father. Names of people who could help. Contingency plans if things went wrong. And then, 4 months in, everything changed. Father knows about Elena. Called me to his office, showed me surveillance photos. Her leaving the hospital, her apartment building, her mother's house in Phoenix. He didn't threaten directly, didn't need to. The message was clear. She's leverage now. Either I fall in line or everyone she cares about dies. Elena's vision blurred. She kept reading. Told Victoria about Elena tonight. Asked her to help me fake a marriage convincing enough that father would believe I'd abandoned my exit plans. She agreed, but only because she wants her own way out of her family's world. We're both prisoners making the best deal we can. Victoria's pregnant. Not mine. Some boyfriend she's been hiding for years. But she's going to claim it's mine. Push the wedding forward. Father is thrilled. Thinks he's won. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how to get Elena out of the city without father's people following her, without him knowing I'm still planning to leave. 3 weeks until the wedding. Haven't seen Elena in 5 days because father has me on a leash. She texted asking if I'm okay. I lied and said I'm fine. The lies are killing me, but the truth would kill her faster. The entries continued through the wedding day. Adrien describing how he'd arranged for Reese to extract Elena if things went wrong. How he'd sent her to the safe house, believing she'd be protected there, not realizing his father had already discovered the location. Married Victoria today. Every vow felt like another nail in the coffin of everything I wanted. Father was triumphant. Mother cried. Victoria looked beautiful and miserable. And somewhere in the city, Elena probably thinks I betrayed her. That's better than her knowing the truth, that I'd set her up as bait to keep father from realizing I was still planning to leave. She was safer hating me than loving me. Elena's tears fell onto the pages, smudging the ink. She read about Adrien's divorce, about his father's rage when the truth about Victoria's pregnancy came out, about Adrien being exiled from the family business, cut off financially, watched constantly. Father thinks taking away my money and connections will break me. But the only thing that broke me was losing Elena. Everything else is just noise. The final entry was dated 3 days ago. Found out where she is. Durango, small hospital, living under a different name. Every instinct says, go to her, explain, beg forgiveness. But Victoria tracked me down yesterday, told me if I make contact, father will know. We'll finish what he started. So I'm writing this instead, hoping somehow it reaches her, hoping she understands I never stopped loving her, Never stopped trying to find a way back to her, but also hoping she's moved on, built a life. Found someone who doesn't come with the kind of danger I bring. That's what she deserves, even if it destroys me to think about it. Elena closed the journal and sat in the dark apartment, trying to breathe around the weight in her chest. Adrien had loved her, still loved her, had sacrificed everything to keep her safe, and now he was alone somewhere, exiled and broken, respecting her new life enough to stay away. Her phone rang. Not the burner. Her regular phone. Unknown number. Elena answered before she could think better of it. Elena? Adrien's voice hit her like a physical blow, rougher than she remembered, tired and desperate. Don't hang up, please. She should have hung up, should have blocked the number, called Reese, maintained the safety of distance. How did you get this number? She asked instead. Does it matter? Yes. I still have connections, not many, but enough. He was quiet for a moment. Did you get the journal? Yes. I'm sorry. For all of it. For making you think I didn't care. For putting you in danger. For being stupid enough to believe I could have you and keep you safe. Your father threatened my mom, Elena said, voice breaking. My friends. I know. And I would have let him kill me before I let him touch them. Before I let him touch you. You should have told me. And what would you have done? Agreed to hide? Run. Adrien laughed bitterly. You would have tried to fight, tried to protect everyone, gotten yourself killed. At least this way you're alive. As someone else, living a fake life. A safe life. That's all I ever wanted for you. Elena stood up, pacing the small apartment. Where are you right now? Does it matter? Stop answering my questions with questions. Denver. Hotel room that smells like bleach and regret. His voice softened. I wanted to come to Durango. Wanted to see you, even if it was just from a distance. But Victoria convinced me that would put you at risk. She came to see me, told me to stay away from you. She's smarter than I am. Adrien, I'm not calling to ask you to come back to me, Elena. I know I destroyed that possibility. I'm calling because I needed to hear your voice, to know you're really okay, that you're building something good. I'm trying to. Are you succeeding? Elena thought about Connor, about her job, about the careful architecture of Sarah Chen's life. I don't know. Some days, yes. Some days I just feel like I'm hiding. You should be hiding. My father hasn't forgotten about you, won't forget as long as I'm alive, and he thinks you matter to me. And do I? Still matter? The silence stretched so long Elena thought he'd hung up. Then, you're the only thing that's ever mattered, which is exactly why I need to let you go. What if I don't want to be let go? Then you're as stupid as I am. But his voice was tender, aching. Elena, please, please just live your life. Find someone safe, someone boring, someone whose father doesn't order hits like other people order coffee. I tried that. There's a guy here. Connor. He's everything you're not. Stable, honest, present, everything I should want. But he's not you. Adrien's breath caught. Don't do this to either of us. Do what? Tell the truth? The truth doesn't matter. What matters is you staying alive long enough to get over me. And if I can't get over you, then fake it. Lie to yourself until the lie becomes true. That's what I'm doing. Elena sank onto the couch, phone pressed to her ear like a lifeline. This is insane. We're insane. Yeah, we really are. Adrien was quiet for a moment. I should go. This call is probably already too long, too traceable. Wait. I love you, Elena Martinez. I loved you the second you promised to take care of me in that emergency room. I loved you when I married someone else. I love you now while I'm telling you to forget me, and I'll love you when you finally do. His voice cracked. Goodbye. The line went dead. Elena sat holding the phone, tears streaming down her face, and finally let herself break. Not the contained grief she'd been rationing, not the careful 5-minute sessions, just complete, devastating heartbreak for everything they'd had and lost and could never get back. She cried until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen and the apartment was completely dark. Then she called Reese. He contacted you? Reese said. Not a question. Yes. And? And he told me to move on, to stay safe, to forget him. Smart man. I can't do it. You have to do it. There's no other option. Elena wiped her eyes, voice steady despite the tears. What if there was? What are you talking about? You said your employers have an interest in destabilizing Moretti's world, that I'm valuable because I'm proof his son was planning to betray him. Where are you going with this? What if I gave you more than proof? What if I helped you actually take him down? Reese was silent for a long moment. You understand what you're suggesting? You'd be putting yourself directly in the line of fire, making yourself the target instead of hiding from it. I'm already a target. At least this way I'd be fighting back. This isn't some revenge fantasy, Elena. Moretti Sr. has killed people for less. You'd need protection, resources, a plan that's airtight. So get me protection. Get me resources. Use your connections. Elena stood up, something hardening in her chest. I spent 6 months being protected, being saved, being someone's secret. I'm done with that. If I'm going to live in fear, I might as well make it count for something. You're serious? Completely. Reese exhaled slowly. I need to make some calls. Don't do anything stupid in the meantime. Don't contact Adrien. Don't tell anyone what you're planning. I won't. And Elena, if we do this, there's no going back. You understand that? You'd be declaring war on one of the most dangerous men in the country. He declared war on me first. I'm just returning the favor. After Reese hung up, Elena sat in the dark and thought about fear. She'd been afraid for 7 months, afraid of being found, afraid of being killed, afraid of living, and afraid of loving. Fear dictated every choice, every movement, every breath. She was done being afraid. Her phone buzzed. Connor. Just want you to know I'm here if you need anything. No pressure, no expectations. Just here. Elena looked at the message and felt a pang of guilt. Connor deserved honesty, even if the truth would hurt. I need to tell you something, she typed. Can we meet tomorrow? Of course. Name the time and place, that coffee shop where we had our second date. 10 a.m.? I'll be there. Elena spent the rest of the night cleaning her apartment, doing laundry, organizing her life with the kind of manic energy that came from making a decision that would either save her or destroy her. By the time she collapsed into bed at 2 a.m., everything was sorted, filed, ready. Tomorrow she'd tell Connor the truth about who she was, what she'd been running from, why she could never be the uncomplicated girlfriend he deserved. Tomorrow she'd start building a case against the man who'd stolen her life. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, Elena let herself imagine a different ending, one where Adrien's father didn't exist, where love was enough, where she and Adrien could have had their house by the ocean and their quiet life and their simple, ordinary happiness. It was a nice dream. But Elena had learned the hard way that dreams were just pretty lies you told yourself before reality kicked you in the teeth. Connor was waiting at the coffee shop when Elena arrived, 2 cups already on the table. He stood when he saw her, concern written across his face. You look exhausted. Didn't sleep much. Elena sat down, wrapped her hands around the coffee he'd ordered for her. Thank you for meeting me. Of course. What's going on? Elena had practiced this conversation in her head a dozen times. It still felt impossible. My name isn't Sarah Chen, she said quietly. It's Elena Martinez. I'm not from Nevada. I'm from a city I can't name, running from a situation I can barely explain. Everything I've told you about my past is either a lie or a carefully edited version of the truth. Connor set down his cup carefully. Okay. That's it? Just okay? I figured you had secrets. Everyone does. The question is whether you're in danger. Yes, potentially a lot of danger. From your ex. From his father mostly, but the ex is part of it too. Elena met his eyes. I'm telling you this because you deserve honesty, and because I'm about to do something really stupid that might get me killed, and I don't want you caught in the crossfire. Connor was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. You're ending this. Us. I'm giving you an out before there's an us to end. You seem like a genuinely good person, Connor. You deserve someone who can be present and honest and safe. I can't be any of those things right now. What if I don't want an out? Then you're not listening. I'm not Sarah. Sarah doesn't exist. She's just a name I use to hide from people who want me dead. So use a different name. Be Elena. Be whoever you actually are. Connor reached across the table, took her hand. I don't care about the lies, Elena. I care about the person underneath them. You don't know that person. Then let me get to know her. Elena pulled her hand back gently. I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. What I'm about to do is going to make me even more of a target than I already am. I can't put you at risk like that. Shouldn't that be my choice? Not when the consequence of that choice could be you ending up dead in an alley somewhere. Connor flinched. That's graphic. That's reality. That's what happened to the last person who tried to help someone in my situation. Elena stood up. Thank you for being kind to me, for making me feel normal, even if it was temporary. But this, us, it can't happen. Not now. Maybe not ever. And if you survive whatever you're planning, if you come out the other side, then maybe I'll look you up, apologize properly, buy you dinner to make up for all of this. I'll hold you to that. Connor stood too, pulled her into a brief hug. Be careful, Elena. Whatever you're doing, be smart about it. I'll try. She left the coffee shop and drove to the hospital for what might be her last shift. Doctor. Morrison caught her in the hallway, gave her the same concerned look everyone seemed to be giving her lately. You putting in your notice? Elena stopped. What makes you say that? You've got that look, the I'm about to do something drastic look. Seen it before with nurses who are burning out or moving on. He crossed his arms. So which is it? I might need to take a leave of absence. Personal issues. How long? I don't know. Could be weeks. Could be permanent. Doctor. Morrison nodded slowly. You're a good nurse, Sarah. Or Elena. Or whoever you actually are. Don't let whatever you're running from make you forget that. You knew? I've been working emergency rooms for 30 years. I can spot a fake ID from across the room. But you did good work. You cared about your patients, and you didn't cause problems. That was enough for me. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. You ever need a reference, you call that number. I'll vouch for you, no questions asked. Elena took the card, throat tight. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just stay alive. Her shift was routine, the kind of mundane emergencies that made up most of healthcare. A kid with a broken arm from skateboarding, an elderly man with chest pain that turned out to be heartburn, a woman in early labor who wasn't quite ready to deliver. Normal. Safe. The kind of day Elena used to take for granted. Now it felt like a gift. A reminder of who she'd been before Adrien, before running, before becoming someone else. When her shift ended, Elena changed out of her scrubs and stood in the hospital parking lot, looking at the mountains that ring Durango. She'd been safe here, had built something small but real. Now she was about to burn it all down. Her burner phone buzzed. Reese, my employers are interested. Meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll send you the address. Come alone. Elena texted back. I'll be there. She drove back to her apartment, packed a bag with essentials, and wrote a letter to Katie explaining that she had to leave town for family reasons, that she was sorry for disappearing without a proper goodbye, that she hoped they'd stay friends even if they probably wouldn't. Then she sat down with Adrien's journal and read it one more time, cover to cover. Every entry where he'd chosen her safety over his happiness, every plan he'd made to protect her, every moment he'd loved her from a distance because that was the only way to keep her alive. When she finished, Elena knew what she had to do. She called the number Adrien had used earlier. He answered on the first ring. Elena, I'm coming to Denver. What? No, absolutely not. We talked about this. We talked about me hiding and you suffering and your father winning. I'm done with that plan. Elena, please. I'm going to take him down, Adrien. Your father. I'm going to help build a case that destroys his empire and puts him in prison where he belongs. And you're going to help me do it. Silence. Then, you'll get yourself killed. Maybe, but at least I'll be doing something instead of just existing. Elena's voice was steady, certain. I spent 7 months being afraid, being small, being invisible. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm fighting back. This is insane. Then it's a good thing we're both insane. Elena grabbed her bag, headed for the door. I'll text you when I get to Denver. We're ending this, Adrien. Together, or we're dying trying. She hung up before he could argue, before she could change her mind, before fear could talk her out of the first brave thing she'd done in months. Elena Martinez was done running. Now it was time to fight. The drive to Denver took 6 hours through mountain passes and stretches of highway where Elena was alone with her thoughts, and the growing certainty that she was either doing the bravest thing of her life or the stupidest. Probably both. She texted Adrien when she hit the city limits. I'm here. Where are we meeting? His response came quickly. This is a terrible idea. Address Adrien. A pause. Then coordinates to a location in an industrial area east of downtown. Elena plugged them into her GPS and followed the robotic voice through streets that got progressively emptier, buildings that looked more abandoned than occupied. The address led to a warehouse with boarded windows and graffiti-tagged walls. Elena parked next to a familiar black sedan and sat for a moment, gathering her courage. Through the cracked windshield, she could see Adrien standing in the warehouse doorway, backlit by the setting sun. He looked different than she remembered. Thinner, harder, like someone who'd been broken and put back together with the pieces in slightly the wrong places. Elena got out of her car. They stared at each other across 20 feet of cracked pavement, neither one moving first. You came, Adrien said finally. I said I would. You also said you hated me. I never said that. You should have. He shoved his hands in his pockets, the gesture so familiar it made Elena's chest ache. This is stupid, Elena. Whatever plan you think you have, my father will see it coming. He always does. Then we'll have to be smarter than him. Nobody's smarter than him. That's how he's survived this long. Elena closed the distance between them, stopped just out of reach. Up close, she could see the shadows under his eyes, the new lines around his mouth. Evidence of months spent in exile, alone, grieving something he'd chosen to destroy. I read your journal, she said. Every word. Adrien's jaw tightened. Then you know why I did what I did. I know you thought you were protecting me. I know you sacrificed everything because you loved me. Elena's voice was steady, despite the tremor in her hands. But you should have trusted me enough to fight beside you, instead of making that choice alone. If I told you the truth, you would have insisted on staying, on helping, on putting yourself in danger. Yes, I would have. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You face the danger together. And if you died? If my father had killed you because I was selfish enough to want you with me? Adrien's control cracked. I couldn't live with that, Elena. I still can't. So you chose to live with losing me instead. I chose to live with you being alive somewhere, even if I couldn't be part of it. That was the only choice I could make. They stood in the fading light, the weight of 7 months and 1,000 unspoken words hanging between them. Elena wanted to touch him, to close the last few feet and prove he was real. But something held her back, not fear, but the knowledge that touching him would either heal everything or break them both completely. Reset up a meeting, she said instead. Tomorrow at 2. Her employers want to hear what we know about your father's operations. You mean what I know? You don't have information they can use. I have proof you were planning to leave. Proof you were gathering evidence. That's leverage. That's also what gets you killed. Adrien ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. You don't understand what you're dealing with. My father doesn't just eliminate problems. He makes examples of them. Slow, public, brutal examples. I know. Reese showed me the photos. Then you know this is insane. I know I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. Elena met his eyes. And I know I'm not doing this without you. So either you help me take him down, or I do it alone and probably die trying. Your choice. Adrien stared at her like she'd grown a second head. When did you get so reckless? Around the time I watched the man I loved marry someone else on television. Tends to change your perspective on acceptable risks. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You're going to get us both killed. Probably, but we'll go down fighting. That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be honest. Elena finally closed the distance, placed her hand on his chest. His heart was racing under her palm. I'm done with comfortable lies, Adrien. I want the messy, dangerous, terrifying truth. even if it destroys us. He covered her hand with his, holding it against his heart. I missed you, every single day, every single second. I know. I read it in your journal. Reading about it and hearing it are different things. Then say it again. I missed you, Elena Martinez. I missed your voice and your laugh and the way you looked at me like I was worth saving when we both knew I wasn't. His voice dropped to a whisper. I missed you so much it felt like dying. Elena went up on her toes and kissed him, soft and brief and full of 7 months of grief and longing. When she pulled back, Adrien's eyes were closed, his expression wrecked. We can't do this, he said without opening his eyes. We can't be together and fight my father. It's too dangerous. Then we'll be dangerous too. Elena, I'm not negotiating on this. We're either doing this together or I'm doing it alone. Pick one. Adrien opened his eyes, and Elena saw the moment he gave in, saw him choose her despite every logical reason not to. Together, he said quietly, but you follow my lead. You trust me when I say something's too risky. You don't take stupid chances. I'm standing in an abandoned warehouse with a crime boss's son planning to commit treason against his father. I think that ship has sailed. Fair point. Adrien stepped back, putting professional distance between them. Where's the meeting tomorrow? Reese is sending details, some office building downtown. We'll need leverage, real evidence, not just your testimony. My father has judges and prosecutors on his payroll. Witness statements alone won't be enough. What about the evidence you were gathering before? The insurance documents you mentioned? Adrien's expression darkened. I hid them. Safety deposit boxes in 3 different cities, none of them in my name. But accessing them now would trigger alerts. My father has people watching for exactly that kind of move. So we get them without triggering alerts. That's not how safety deposit boxes work, Elena. Then we find another way. You spent months building a case against him. There has to be something we can use. They spent the next 3 hours in the warehouse going through options. Adrien had digital backups of financial records stored on encrypted servers, wire transfer receipts proving money laundering, names of shell corporations used to hide assets, audio recordings of his father ordering hits, discussing bribes, casually describing violence like other people discuss the weather. This is enough, Elena said, looking at the list they'd compiled. This could actually work. This is barely scratching the surface of what he's done. But yes, it's enough to start an investigation, maybe even enough for indictments if we find the right prosecutor. Adrien closed his laptop. The hard part is staying alive long enough to deliver it. That's where Reese's people come in. And you trust them? I trust that their interests align with ours. That's good enough for now. Adrien looked at her for a long moment. You've changed. You're harder than you were. You spent 7 months in hiding, learning to survive. So did I. We both changed. Elena stood, stretched muscles stiff from sitting. Where are you staying? Hotel near the airport. Cheap, anonymous, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions. I'm staying there too. Same logic. Different hotels, I hope. Can't risk being seen together until we know it's safe. Right, of course. Elena grabbed her jacket, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the drive was wearing off, leaving behind bone-deep fatigue. I should go. Get some sleep before tomorrow. Elena, wait. Adrien crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands. Thank you. For coming here. For not giving up on me even when you should have. I tried to give up on you. Tried to move on, date someone else, build a normal life. Didn't work. Why not? Because nobody else was you. She leaned into his touch, letting herself have this moment. And I'd rather have 10 minutes of dangerous truth with you than a lifetime of safe lies with someone else. He kissed her then, and it wasn't gentle. It was desperate and hungry and full of 7 months of separation. Elena kissed him back just as fiercely, pouring every unsaid word into the connection between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrien rested his forehead against hers. If we survive this, he said, I'm taking you to that house by the ocean, the one I promised you. If we survive this, I'll hold you to it. They separated reluctantly. Elena drove to her hotel alone, checked in under Sarah Chen's name one last time, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, she'd walk into a meeting that could either save her or destroy her. Tomorrow, she'd become a witness against one of the most dangerous men in the country. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, she let herself believe in the possibility of winning, of surviving, of finally getting the future Adrien had promised all those months ago. The meeting was in a glass office building downtown, all modern architecture and corporate anonymity. Reese met Elena and Adrien in the lobby, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. "They're on the 15th floor, conference room B." She looked at Adrien. "You're taking a risk showing up here." "Everything about this is a risk," Adrien replied. "Might as well go all in." They took the elevator in silence. When the doors opened, a woman in a sharp suit was waiting. Mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back severely, the kind of face that gave nothing away. "Ms. Martinez, Mr. Moretti, I'm Agent Sarah Vance, FBI." She extended her hand. "Thank you for coming." Elena shook it, trying not to show her surprise. "FBI? Reese didn't mention that part." "Reese doesn't mention a lot of things. That's why we work well together." Vance led them down a hallway to a conference room where 2 other agents waited. "Please sit. We have a lot to discuss." The next 2 hours were brutal. Vance and her team questioned everything: Elena's timeline, Adrien's evidence, their motivations, their reliability as witnesses. They picked apart details, challenged inconsistencies, made it clear they weren't interested in vengeance or feelings, only prosecutable crimes. "Your father is careful," Vance said to Adrien. "Layers of deniability, legitimate businesses fronting for illegal operations, lawyers who know every loophole. We've been building a case against him for 3 years. What you're offering accelerates our timeline, but it doesn't guarantee success." "What do you need to guarantee success?" Adrien asked. "Direct testimony from someone inside his organization, someone with first-hand knowledge of his operations." Vance looked at him steadily. "Someone like you." "I'm exiled. I don't have access anymore." "But you have relationships, people who still work for him, who might be willing to cooperate if they had protection." Adrien was quiet for a moment. "There's one person, my father's accountant, Marcus Chen. He's kept the books for 20 years, knows where every body is buried, metaphorically and literally. He's also terrified of my father. Can you get to him?" "Maybe. If I can convince him we can actually protect him." "We can protect him," Vance said firmly. "Witness protection, new identity, the full program. But he needs to give us everything. Tax records, wire transfers, communications. Everything that proves your father's criminal enterprise." Elena watched the negotiation, her role in this suddenly feeling smaller. This wasn't about her and Adrien anymore. It was about dismantling an empire that had destroyed countless lives over decades. "I'll reach out to Marcus," Adrien said finally, "but I need guarantees for him and for Elena. Full protection no matter what happens." "You're not asking for protection for yourself?" "I'm asking for it for the people I care about. What happens to me is irrelevant." Vance studied him. "You understand that testifying against your father will make you a target for the rest of your life. Even with protection, even with him in prison, his associates will want revenge." "I understand." "And you're willing to live with that?" "I'm willing to live with a lot of things if it means Elena gets to actually live instead of just hiding." Vance's expression softened slightly. "All right. Make contact with Chen. Set up a meeting. We'll handle the rest." She slid a card across the table. "That's my direct line. You run into trouble, you call immediately. Don't try to be a hero." After the meeting, Elena and Adrien stood on the sidewalk outside the building, letting the reality of what they'd just agreed to sink in. "This is really happening," Elena said. "Yeah, it really is." "Are you scared?" "Terrified. You?" "Same." Elena took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "But also relieved, like we're finally doing something instead of just surviving." Adrien squeezed her hand. "I need to call Marcus, see if he'll even take my call." "And if he won't?" "Then we find another way. We always find another way." Marcus Chen agreed to meet them that night at a diner on the outskirts of Denver. Adrien had described him as cautious and methodical, but the man who slid into their booth looked actively terrified. Late 50s, gray hair, hands that trembled as he gripped his coffee cup. "You shouldn't have called me," Marcus said without preamble. Your father has people watching. If he finds out, he won't find out, Adrien interrupted. Not if you're careful. I'm always careful. That's why I'm still alive. Marcus glanced at Elena. Who's she? Someone who has as much to lose as you do. Someone who wants my father stopped. We all want him stopped. Wanting and doing are different things. What if I told you we have federal protection? Witness protection? New identity? A way out for good? Marcus laughed bitterly. Your father has reach everywhere. Prison guards on his payroll, judges, prosecutors. You think witness protection would keep me safe? I think it's safer than staying and waiting for him to decide you know too much. That landed. Marcus's expression shifted from terrified to calculating. What would you need from me? Everything. Financial records, communications, proof of illegal activity. Everything you've kept hidden all these years. That's suicide. That's insurance. You help us put him away, and you get to disappear. You stay silent, and eventually he decides you're a liability. Adrien leaned forward. You know I'm right. You've seen what he does to liabilities. Marcus was quiet for a long time, staring into his coffee like it held answers. Finally, I have copies. Digital files, encrypted, backed up in multiple locations. 20 years of every illegal transaction, every bribe, every order he gave me to hide money or cook books. Why keep copies? Same reason you're sitting here asking for them. Insurance. Leverage. Proof that if something happened to me, the truth would come out. Marcus met Adrien's eyes. Your father isn't the only one who plans for contingencies. Will you share those files with the FBI? If they can guarantee my safety, and I mean actually guarantee it, not just promises. Elena spoke for the first time. Agent Vance seems competent and motivated. She's been building this case for years. Marcus studied her. You trust her? I trust that she wants your father in prison as badly as we do. That's good enough. Maybe for you. You're young. You don't understand how deep his corruption goes. I understand that doing nothing guarantees he wins. Fighting back at least gives us a chance. Something in Marcus's expression shifted. You remind me of someone. My daughter. She had your same stubborn optimism. Your same belief that fighting back mattered. Had? She got caught in crossfire 3 years ago. Wrong place, wrong time. One of your father's hits gone wrong. Marcus looked at Adrien. He sent flowers to her funeral, expressed his condolences, like he wasn't the reason she was dead. Adrien's face went pale. Marcus, I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You were too busy trying to be different from him, too busy pretending you could escape. Marcus pulled out a USB drive, set it on the table. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's time to stop pretending and start fighting. This is the files. Everything. Tax fraud, money laundering, bribes, payoffs. Every crime he's committed that left a paper trail. Marcus pushed the drive toward Adrien. You give this to your FBI agent. You make sure it puts him away forever. And you make sure my daughter's death meant something. Elena picked up the drive with trembling fingers. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You still have to survive delivering it. Marcus stood. Be careful, both of you. Your father doesn't lose gracefully. After Marcus left, Elena and Adrien sat in the diner booth, staring at the USB drive like it might explode. This is it, Elena said. This is enough to finish him. If we can get it to Vance without my father finding out. So we get it to her, tonight, right now. They called Vance from the diner parking lot. She answered on the second ring, listened to their explanation, and told them to meet her at a federal building in 30 minutes. The handoff was anticlimactic. Vance took the drive, plugged it into a computer, and spent 20 minutes scanning files while Elena and Adrien waited in tense silence. Finally, she looked up. This is comprehensive. Financial crimes, RICO violations, evidence of at least 15 murders for hire. If even half of this holds up in court, Moretti's going away for life. How long until you move on him? Adrien asked. We'll need to verify the evidence, coordinate with prosecutors, arrange arrests for his key associates. 2 weeks, maybe 3. That's a long time to stay hidden. Then stay hidden well. We'll provide protection starting tomorrow. Safe house, security detail, the works. But until we make arrests, you're both at risk. They were moved to a safe house the next morning, a suburban home in a bland neighborhood where everything looked normal and nothing was. 2 agents stationed outside, security cameras on every corner, strict rules about leaving or communicating with anyone. It should have felt like prison. Instead, it felt like the first safe breath Elena had taken in 7 months. She and Adrien fell into an uneasy routine. Coffee in the mornings while going over details with Vance's team. Afternoons spent giving depositions, answering questions, building the case. Evenings sitting on the couch watching terrible TV and trying to pretend their lives weren't balanced on a knife's edge. One week in, Adrien found Elena standing at the kitchen window, staring out at the ordinary neighborhood with its ordinary houses and ordinary lives. "You okay?" he asked. "Just thinking about what happens after, if we survive this. What do you want to happen?" Elena turned to face him. "I want that house by the ocean, the one you promised. I want morning coffee and terrible jokes and boring domesticity. I want to be so unremarkably normal that nobody looks twice at us." That's a pretty modest dream for someone who just took down a crime empire. "I've had enough excitement for one lifetime, thanks." Adrien crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. "Ocean house it is. I'll even learn to cook something other than pasta. Let's not get crazy. I like pasta." They stood like that for a while, wrapped in each other, pretending tomorrow wasn't the day Vance's team would execute the arrests, pretending they weren't waiting for violence to find them one last time. The call came at 6 a.m., Vance's voice tight with urgency. "We're moving now. Moretti got tipped off. He's trying to run. We need your testimony today. Not in 2 weeks." The next 12 hours were chaos. Elena and Adrien were transported to a federal courthouse, separated into different rooms, questioned for hours by prosecutors preparing for emergency arraignment. Through it all, Elena kept thinking about Marcus's daughter, about all the people who'd died in the crossfire of Moretti's empire, about making it mean something. At 6 p.m., Vance found her in a conference room. "We got him, and 12 of his top associates. He's in custody," bail denied, "and the prosecutors are confident about conviction." Elena felt something in her chest unclench. "It's over?" "The immediate danger is over. The trial will take months, maybe years, but he can't hurt you from prison." Vance hesitated. "There's one more thing. Moretti asked to see you, both of you." "Why?" "He says he wants to apologize. Personally, I think he wants to intimidate you one last time. But it's your choice." Elena found Adrien in another conference room. He looked exhausted, wrung out, but also lighter. Like a weight he'd carried his whole life had finally been lifted. "Your father wants to see us," she said. "I heard. You want to go?" "Do you?" Adrien considered. "Yeah, I think I do. I think I need to see him in chains to believe it's real." They were escorted to a holding area where Carlo Moretti sat in an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed to the table. He looked smaller than Elena had imagined. Older. Just a man, not the monster she'd built in her head. When he saw Adrien, something flickered across his face. Anger, maybe, or disappointment. "My son the traitor," he said. "Your son the survivor," Adrien corrected. "There's a difference. You destroyed everything I built, everything our family stood for. You destroyed it yourself the day you started killing people to maintain power. I just made sure you'd pay for it." Carlo's eyes shifted to Elena. "And you? The nurse who stole my son's focus, his loyalty." "I didn't steal anything," Elena said quietly. "I just reminded him there was another way to live, one that didn't require blood and fear." "Naive. You're both naive if you think this ends with me in prison. My organization will continue. People I've helped will remember. And someday, when you're comfortable and complacent, they'll find you." "Maybe," Adrien said. "Or maybe they'll be too busy dealing with their own arrests to care about revenge. Vance's team got 12 of your top associates, remember? How many more do you think will flip to save themselves?" Carlo's jaw tightened. He looked at his son for a long moment, and Elena saw something almost like grief in his expression. "I made you strong," he said finally. "Taught you to survive in a world that eats the weak, and you used that strength against me." "You made me afraid," Adrien corrected. "Mom made me strong. The people you hurt made me angry. Elena made me brave enough to fight back. Then I hope she was worth it. Worth losing your family, your legacy, your name. She was worth everything, and more. Adrien stood. Goodbye, Father. I hope prison gives you time to think about the lives you destroyed, though I doubt you will. They walked out of the holding area together. Outside, the Denver sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Elena breathed in the evening air and felt something she hadn't felt in 7 months. Freedom. 3 months later, Elena stood on the porch of a small house perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The house needed work, new paint, repairs to the deck, a kitchen renovation that Adrien kept putting off. But it was theirs. Bought with money from the sale of properties Adrien had owned before exile, far enough from Denver that they could breathe. She heard his footsteps on the stairs, turned to see him carrying 2 cups of coffee. Morning, he said, handing her one. Morning yourself? They stood side by side, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. In the distance, seabirds circled and called. The world was vast and beautiful, and theirs. Trial starts next month, Adrien said. Vance called yesterday. They want us both to testify. I figured, you ready? As ready as I'll ever be. You? Same. Elena leaned against him. After the trial, what do you want to do? I was thinking about Marcus's daughter, about all the people who got caught in my father's wake. Adrien sipped his coffee. There's money from my mother's estate. Clean money, not connected to his empire. I want to use it to start a foundation, help people who've been affected by organized crime, counseling, relocation assistance, legal support. That's a good idea. You could run the medical side, a clinic for people who need help but can't afford it. People like the ones you used to treat at St. Mary's. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. You mean it? I mean it. We can't undo the damage my father did, but maybe we can help clean up some of the mess he left behind. They stood on the porch as the sun climbed higher, warming their faces. Below them, the ocean rolled and crashed and continued its eternal rhythm. Behind them, a future waited, messy and uncertain and theirs to build however they wanted. 6 months after that, Elena stood in front of a small building with a sign that read, Haven Community Clinic, in simple letters. The grand opening was small, just local residents, a few reporters, and Reese, who'd shown up with congratulations and a bottle of champagne. Never thought I'd see you running a charity, Reese said, looking around the lobby. Life's full of surprises. Elena accepted a hug from Katie, who'd made the drive from Durango for the opening. This is amazing, Elena. Or do you go by Sarah here? Elena. Always Elena. Sarah was just a name I borrowed when I needed to hide. And now? Now I'm building instead of hiding. Feels better? Adrien found her later, after the crowd had thinned and the sun was setting over the ocean. Good first day? He asked. Great first day. We saw 15 patients, all of them people who needed help and couldn't afford it anywhere else. That's what we built this for. Elena looked at the clinic, at the foundation offices next door where Adrien spent his days helping people rebuild their lives after violence, at the house on the cliff where they went home every night to ordinary domesticity and extraordinary peace. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Fighting back? Everything we went through to get here? Adrien pulled her close. Not even for a second. Do you? Not one. They stood together watching the sun set, 2 people who'd survived the worst and built something beautiful from the wreckage. The trial had ended with Moretti Sr. sentenced to life without parole. His organization had crumbled. The people he'd hurt were finally seeing justice, and Elena and Adrien were finally free. I love you, Elena said, for the record, in case I don't say it enough. You say it plenty, but I'll never get tired of hearing it. Adrien kissed her temple. I love you too, for the record, and for the rest of our lives. They went home to their house by the ocean, to coffee in the morning and terrible TV at night, to the simple, ordinary, extraordinary life they'd fought for. And if some nights Elena still dreamed about rain-soaked safe houses and televised weddings, she woke up to Adrien's arms around her and remembered. They'd survived. They'd won. Not because love conquered all or because justice always prevailed, but because they'd chosen each other every single day despite the cost. because they'd been brave enough to fight for a future instead of just accepting the one they'd been given. And that, Elena thought as she fell asleep in their house on the cliff with the ocean singing below, was enough. More than enough. It was everything.